Okay, hi there. Back again. Sorry about the crappy video quality, the crappy lighting, probably the crappy sound, um, and my crappy background setting. For some reason, I'm sitting on a, you can't see it, but I'm sitting on a pile of cushions in front of my couch, like some kind of douchey Persian prince. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I just decided to get comfy. And that's kind of how I identify now, is I am a douchey Persian prince. That's how I live my life, so just get used to it. Um, First of all, been a long time since the last video. Some of you have been pestering me for another video. I'm not quite sure why, because there's plenty of videos already that pretty much cover everything. I suspect what it is, and this is not, don't take this as an insult if this resonates with you. I was like this when I was first recovering from LPR. Some of you want to have your hand held all the time, and you want someone to keep telling you it's going to be okay. Well, it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. But you shouldn't need fresh new videos. I tell you that in the other videos. There's a whole playlist that you can listen to me telling you you're going to be okay. On that note, really quickly, just a vent. Yes, tons of positive comments, tons of messages thanking me, which I love. Also, sometimes though, like an annoying, no douchey, insulting comments, which I expected. To be honest, I expected at least. Well, I'm sure they'll come, but what's bugged me is there's been the occasional one of these comments that I warned you about, where someone decides to come on here and say, "Oh, this is bullshit. It's not going to work. That doesn't work. You can't. LPR is irreversible." And when they do that, I just block them. I delete the comment and I block them because it's unproductive. It's actually completely hinders you from trying to heal when you got some negative prick telling you can't. And it's not true. It's complete misinformation. I know it's not true because I've healed from it. Some of you listening maybe have healed from it, and you know it's bullshit. But we'll get into that a little bit more later, probably. I just want to say it's very nice to hear that these videos have actually helped people, because I thought, I hoped they would, but I didn't know if, I've said it a few times. I never really knew if what worked for me would work for other people, but it has, and that's awesome. Which is weird because I've never wanted to help people. I know it sounds really douchey, but there's some people who just, that's their passion, is to help people one way or another. You'll get doctors, nurses, therapists, prostitutes. Just kidding. Well, maybe they help people that just want to help. That's their passion in life. I've never had that. I've never, I don't want to hurt people, but I've never really, to be honest, I've been trying to help myself my whole life. I haven't done very well at it, but until recently. So, why am I making another video? It's not just to appease those of you who want your hands held. It's because there is I was going to say a missing ingredient to the healing process that I used for LPR, but that's not really true. There's nothing missing from what I've told you. There's nothing that I've left out. Everything I've said, if you want to heal from LPR, it's all those things I talk about. It's negative thoughts, emotional trauma, stress, etc. I'm not going to recap all the videos in this playlist now. Sorry, one of my dogs is having a nightmare. I don't know if you could hear one of them's crying over there. Shh, it's okay. All right. What I want to talk about, though, is, for me personally, something that has helped me a little bit with LPR, although I do not believe it was, an essential aspect of my healing journey. Ugh, I hate that term, but you know what I mean. But something that's helped me in life a lot recently, and has been, to be perfectly honest, fucking trippy, is something I'm going to talk about with you right now. Now, here's the thing. I might lose some of you on this video, because this is not for everybody. And it wouldn't have been for me a few years ago. All right? we're going to get into some weird shit, okay? I know I'm sounding very mysterious and ambiguous, but that's for a good reason, because I just want to prepare you for what I'm going to talk about. It's kind of crazy hippy-dippy bullshit, all right? Some people think what I've already talked about is hippy-dippy bullshit, so I guess it doesn't matter at this point, but I probably should have planned this video. I'm not sure how I'm going to talk about this. I guess I'll start by saying I live in two worlds, okay? And some of you this will resonate with and you will relate to this. Some of you will think, what the hell is wrong with him? I live in two worlds. I live in the physical, rational, sane world that we all should be living in, right? In which I accept fundamental aspects of reality. So I say, yes, this is real. The world is round. I am a human mammal, and yes, evolution is real. We were primitive apes that evolved and eventually became humans and got addicted to online porn. That's the classic story of evolution. I don't know why I said that. My point is, I live in a rational world. Science. Facts. Okay? But I live in a second world in which I don't believe any of this is real. Okay? And this doesn't come from a religious background. I was raised in an atheist house. I haven't had any kind of, insane psychedelic drug trip that made me lose my mind. At least I don't think I have. I have no memory of that happening. But I've just always been very philosophical, and I've always been aware that everything we know, pretty much, everything you know, has been told to you. You didn't figure it out yourself. Things we take for granted, like the moon, okay, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. That's how weird this video is. The moon. What is the moon? You know what it is. It's a rock that orbits the Earth, right? And you know that because you've been told. And you've read it in textbooks, maybe, at school. You haven't experienced it objectively. You can rationalize it and go, well, why would they lie? And there's enough evidence to and that's fine. But my point is, there is very, very little, almost nothing in this world that you can know as an objective fact. The vast majority of it is stuff you've been told. And have you ever had a dream that you were completely convinced was real? You wake up from it and go, holy shit, that was a dream. They're rare, but they happen. And the point is, in that dream, you might be holding a cup. You're holding a cup. And if a dream character says to you, are you holding a cup? You say, yes, I am. Are you sure you're holding a cup? You're holding a cup. Yes, I am. And then you wake up. You weren't holding a cup. I told you this was going to be weird. Okay. All I'm trying to do right now is illustrate that I believe that the world we live in is far more like a dream than people care to admit. And I believe that the reason things like healing with the mind, something that people call the placebo effect, people use the term placebo effect almost dismissively, as if it's not that big of a deal. You will hear people say, oh, that's just the placebo effect. Just. Yeah. Oh, that's just using the powers of the mind to elicit a physical response in your body that makes no sense. That's all it is. That's just Jedi fucking mind skills. Anyway, I can't remember where I was now, but yeah, the world is far more like a dream than people care to admit. That is why things like the placebo effect, which we're using when we're healing from LPR, you're telling yourself you're better. There's no drugs. Don't take drugs for LPR, in my opinion. Check with your doctor, who may or may not be telling you the truth. There's no special diet, right? It's just knowing you're going to get better, and then it happens, right? So that is the placebo effect. But it's not just the placebo effect. That is you changing reality. And it is that profound. Okay. Now, this is something I thought about a lot. Okay. I've never been, I've never been like super spiritual. I've been one of these annoying agnostics who's like, yeah, there's probably something, but I don't know what it is. But that changed for me a few years ago, and I'll tell you how it happened. I was walking home from work. This is years ago. I was working at a bar, and I was walking home because it was a nice night. And what I used to do is I would run to work, and I would change, and I would walk back home at night. So I'm walking home at night. There's a full moon. Don't worry, this doesn't end with me turning into a werewolf or some crazy shit. It's not quite that crazy. But I'm walking home and I'm listening to a podcast on my headphones. And it's a podcast called the Nickmargerison Podcast. It doesn't exist anymore, I don't think. He sort of brought it back recently and then it went away again. But check it out because it's awesome. And I've actually been on that podcast in a very strange turn of events, which are probably relevant and related to what I'm talking about. But at this point, I had not been on that podcast. The podcast is basically, if any of you in America ever listen to Coast, this is an English podcast, by the way. So if you're in England, maybe you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. But in America, there's a podcast called Coast to Coast, and it's basically the guy was Art Bell, and he would have all these interesting conversations with conspiracy theorists, people who say they've been abducted by aliens, wizards, magicians, witches, you name it, right? All sorts of interesting characters. Sometimes just political, but not political, but sometimes just I don't know what to call them, but basically it was a show for weirdos, and it was fun, and I love that shit. And sometimes it's very insightful. I'm walking home, I'm listening to this podcast, and at some point, a bat flew into my face. I don't know if it's relevant, but it happened. It was really weird. I'm just walking home, minding my own business, listening to Nickmargerison talking to somebody, and then a bat just in my face. I went, oh, shit! And I freaked out. The bat didn't even actually touch me. It just sort of flapped in my face, but it freaked me out. And then I sort of came to terms with what had just happened, kept walking. Then I started looking at the moon. Okay? Now, humans have always had a fascination with the moon, and I feel it. I feel drawn to the moon. Don't know why, don't know what it means, but I'll stare at the moon and I just feel this sense of I don't know what, all right? That's what was happening at this moment. I was walking home, I was looking at the moon, and I just thought to myself, remember, I live in two worlds. I live in a rational world. I live in a crazy, we're all in a dream world. So I'm looking at the moon, and I just start thinking to myself, the podcast is playing in my ear, but I'm not listening. I'm looking at the podcast, looking at the moon, and I just start thinking to myself, what could the moon be if it wasn't what we're told it is, right? Because we're told it's a rock that orbits the Earth, right? That simple. I mean, that's a very, very, I'm sure I'm simplifying it, but essentially, right? And we know this. But what if it wasn't? People have worshipped the moon as a god or a goddess forever. For really, really, in all cultures, it's had spiritual significance. And I just thought, in that moment, what could it be if it wasn't what we're told it is? And as soon as I had that thought, Nickmargerison, on his podcast, says, almost verbatim, word for word, blah, blah, blah. And the moon, which is the home of the goddess Eris, that's what the moon is. That's where she lives. And it freaked me out. And you've got to understand, that is one hell of a coincidence. They weren't talking about the moon before the bat flew in my face. I don't know how it came up, but I was looking at the moon and I was thinking about the moon. And then he said that. So, the goddess Eris. I was like, what's the goddess Eris? I look into it. Here's a really, really shit, piss poor explanation for what the goddess Eris is. At some point, not that long ago in history, maybe 100 years ago, maybe less. I have a hard time with time. A group of people essentially decided to just make up a religion deliberately as maybe not as a joke, but maybe as an experiment. I'm not sure. But they got together and they made up this religion called Discordianism. And it basically revolved around chaos, the idea of chaos. And they picked a deity, and they picked this goddess, Eris, who I think is the goddess of chaos. And she's ancient, and I don't recall right now where she came from, which cultures worshipped her, but it was a real goddess. And they worshipped this, not expecting anything to happen. But at some point, things started happening. They would worship this goddess, perform rituals, I don't know, ask for things, and those things would happen. It's kind of a monkey paw kind of thing. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. The idea that you get a wish, but there's always a cost. It seems like, I remember reading a quote from one of the members of this religious group who said, if we'd have realized this was going to work, we might have picked a nicer deity, because I think she can be kind of cruel. And anyway, but basically, after that happened, I thought, I'm going to start looking into this, because this is the world of magic now. Forget about that religion. There are magical rituals you can perform that people say have tangible results. Now, I realize this is this is completely insane. I realize that this is completely veering away from all my other videos, and I realize I'm kind of rushing this whole idea, but for reasons I might get into later if anyone's curious, I've been sort of looking into magic for a while. And magic, when I say magic, it's a subtle thing. I don't think that I'm not about to shoot lightning bolts out my fingertips or levitate or anything like that. But Western magic, ancient Western magic, is more like sort of yoga, like Eastern religious, spiritual practices. But there are things that you can do to essentially communicate with the universe and get results. It's kind of just, if you want to be a little bit more mainstream, but still a hippy-dippy, it's the law of attraction. Like you can want things and make them happen, but there's various ways you can do it. And I explored one avenue of magic because I thought it was very practical and simple, and it would be easy to see if it worked or not. And that is Sigil Magic. And yes, I have used this for healing. And I'm going to tell you, I don't want to, this is such a long video. I want to keep this under 20 minutes. I'll tell you what, in the second video, and then I'll make another video where I tell you a crazy healing experience I had in which I used Sigil Magic. But essentially, Sigil Magic, I guess I'll explain that in the next video too. This might be too much nonsense. But all I'm saying is, we've talked about LPR. We talked about how it can help you. I'm a big believer in physical health through good nutrition and exercise. I'm a personal trainer. I work out all the time. I eat well most of the time. And I don't really like to abuse my body unless it's in a good way, not sexual. But yeah, this is just another aspect of my life, and it's a direction that, to be perfectly honest, is kind of becoming the focal point of my life right now. I got divorced. I had an on again, off again relationship with a girl who may or may not be a bitch. It's not for me to say, but I've been through a lot of emotional trauma, and this has helped me with that too. And I don't think I'm crazy. So let me know if you're interested, and let me know. Be honest. Let me know if I've just ruined your faith in me, and now you think I'm stark raving mad. Remember, you can disassociate this video from the rest, but this is something I want to start talking about and go deeper down the road of, because I think that I can help a lot more people if we can get into this crazy shit. So Like this video, leave a comment, and again, I won't be offended if you go, "You're crazy, I don't want to hear it." That's fine. Like I said, I expect to lose some people with this, but maybe I'll gain some people too, and eventually we'll start a cult. Okay, but yeah, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Do whatever you want. I don't give a shit. Anyway.